Salut et bienvenue dans l'espace français. My name is Chris Schneider, and today we are going to learn about adjectives. So last lesson we learned about pronouns and how to conjugate the verb être. We also learned that the article, the noun, and the verb all have to have the same gender and number. Today we're going to learn about adjectives, and they have to match too. There's a lot of matching that goes on in French, and it's called agreement, or l'accord. Adjectives are called les adjectifs en français. Since we already know some people nouns, let's learn some people adjectives like emotions and traits. So just like nouns, adjectives are either masculine or feminine, and either singular or plural. Let's look at the word intelligent for an example. In French, the word for intelligent is intelligent. The masculine singular form is intelligent, at the very least. The feminine singular form is intelligente. So we add an E at the end to create the feminine form, and that makes the T at the end pronounced. So one more time, it's intelligent and intelligente. To make the plural forms, we just add an S. So for the masculine, it would be intelligent, and for the feminine, it would be intelligente. Okay, they sound exactly the same as the singular forms. Unless you have a liaison, the S's at the end for the plural forms are going to be silent. So, intelligent has the most common ending pattern of all the adjectives in French. So like we just said, you just add an E to get the feminine form, you add an S to get the masculine plural, or you add ES to get the feminine plural form. And the pronunciation is only different between the masculine and the feminine, unless your adjective ends in E already. So let's look at sad. In French, sad is triste. Because triste ends with an E, the pronunciation is going to be the same between the masculine and the feminine. And since the pronunciation between the masculine and the feminine and the singular and the plural are all the same, there's only one way you pronounce triste unless you have a liaison. So it's going to be triste, 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 and triste, depending on whatever form it is. Let's look at some more adjectives that follow the same pattern as intelligent and triste. So the French word for tall is grand. Grand. At least that's the masculine singular form. The feminine form is going to be grande. You just pronounce the D because of the E at the end. So, grand or grande. And grand can mean tall, large, or great depending on the context. For example, if you're looking at clothing, you might notice that the tag will say grand, and that means it's a large. The word for small is petit for the masculine, and petite for the feminine. So let's go ahead and try that one more time. Petit, petite. Good. So the word for stupid in French is stupide, and it ends with an E, so the pronunciation is the same for all of the different forms. Stupide. The word for mean is méchant, and in the feminine form it is méchante. So méchant or méchante. The word for good is bon or bonne. The word for great is formidable. Formidable. And because formidable ends with an E, the pronunciation is the same for all forms. So formidable means great, like you're a real great person, or if you just use formidable, it means this is great, or awesome. The word for nice is sympathique. Sympathique. And because it ends with an E, the pronunciation is the same for all the different forms. There's a few that have more complex forms, and there are even irregular adjectives, like beautiful or handsome. So handsome is beau, and beautiful is belle. Handsome, of course, being the masculine version and beautiful being the feminine version. So one more time, it's beau or belle. And the plural forms have the same pronunciation, even though the masculine form now has an X at the end for the plural. The X is silent, and it liaises just like an S. The French word for happy is heureux. The X here is also silent, but liaises like an S, even in the singular masculine form. And since the X is already there, we don't actually change the pronunciation with the plural form for the masculine. We don't change the spelling either. So the masculine form is heureux, and the feminine form is heureuse. Heureux, heureuse. All right, the word for bad or evil is mauvais. Mauvais. Or the feminine version would be mauvaise. Mauvaise. So the adjectives that end in S typically remain the same between the masculine singular and the plural. You'll notice that the singular is AIS and the plural is AIS as well. All right, and our last adjective that we're going to talk about today is old. Vieux. Vieux. Vieux has two forms in the masculine singular, vieux and vieille. Vieille is used when the noun has a initial vowel or an initial H. For example, you might say le vieil artiste, but you would say le vieux professeur. Notice the liaison with vieille. It's not a L sound, it's a Y sound. So one more time, it's le vieil artiste. Which is interesting because the feminine version with the double L-E is vieille. Vieille. In French, sometimes the double L will make that Y sound, not always though. Okay, now we can form some simple descriptive sentences in French because we know all of the parts. So following the example, let's do a little practice. Par exemple, le professeur est intelligent. Le est l'article défini. Professeur est le sujet. Est le verbe. Intelligent est l'adjectif. My guess is that if you've been following closely, you understood at least 50% of those sentences. However, to make it more clear and reassure you that you're right, here's the translation. So, for example, the professor is intelligent. Le is the definite article. Professeur is the subject. Est is the verb. And intelligent is the adjective. And we can use this pattern to create our sentences. So, definite article, subject, être, and then our adjective. So let's try to make some sentences with other professions and different adjectives. And make sure that the definite article, the noun, the subject, and the adjective all agree. So if I wanted to say, the singer, feminine, is beautiful, I would say, la chanteuse est belle. La is the feminine form of the definite article. Chanteuse is the feminine form of the noun. A matches with the singular third person. And belle is the feminine form of the word for beautiful. So, give it a try. How would I say the singers are handsome if I'm talking about male singers? So we're going to have multiple singers, and we want to say that they are handsome. The singers are handsome. Go ahead and try. Les chanteurs sont beaux. Let's try a little bit easier one. What about the doctor is tall? So we need the masculine form of both the article, the noun, and then we need the third person singular for être, and then the masculine form for tall. Go ahead. Le médecin est grand would be the correct form. The doctor is tall. Le médecin est grand. All right, great. Next lesson, we're going to practice what we've learned more, and we're going to add some more vocabulary. Thank you very much for joining me at l'Espace Français. See you later. Au revoir.